Hello, hello.
1 second. I am waiting. Got it. So I just need to. We're going to wait about 60 seconds. Hmm. All right. I think we can go ahead and get started. And then, as I've said before, there will be a replay for individuals if they're not able to join, but at least we'll be able to get the content out. So if you can just give us another background on yourself for those who might have missed the first video.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Credit 101, Paid in Full versus Settlement in Full. I am Shalita Coline. As I stated in the previous video, I have been in collections since 1997. I am currently working for a financial institution and I'm a credit counselor. I have been in credit counseling now for about 5 years. Previously, before that, I worked in legal collections with a law firm for 10 years. So, today, the information that we're going to give you is based off of years and years of experience, facts, and things that you're gonna, really want to know about settlement in full and paid in full. What's the difference in answering your questions?
Awesome. Again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to even provide this information, which I know is invaluable. And most of the time, individuals have to pay for this. So I really appreciate that you're taking this time in order to share your wealth of knowledge. And I am hopeful that individuals that are going to watch this will be able to take something from it. So my first question to you is, when we're getting different creditors calling us and saying, hey, I know you owe us $5,000 or $500, but hey, pay us $3,000 or pay us $250. If I'm deciding to not pay the full amount, what is the effect on my credit when I do that?
What a lot of people don't know is that when so everyone is concerned about their points, right? They don't really care about what the rest of the credit says. So when you settle an account out, you will see your credit boost. There will be a certain amount of points that it will boost. However, you won't get the maximum boost from your credit because, unfortunately, credit bureaus still look at settle in full the same as a charge off, whether that account has been charged off or not. So let's say that, it's just your bank. And let's say your credit card got behind and they're like, hey, we just want to help you out and let you settle it. However, it is still looked upon as the same thing as a charge off because one, the account is going to get closed out, which is going to drop your score.
Mm.
Two, once it shows paid, you're going to get a little boost, but it's not going to take away from, it's not going to matter that little boost because of the initial hit. So you're never going to get those original points back, right?
Mhm.
So and it just depends. Your credit is very fickle.
Mhm.
Um, you could settle out one account and you could see your credit go up 25 points. You settle out another account, you could see it go up 6 points. And if I knew the rhyme or reason to how the points work,
Mhm.
and I would be a millionaire if I could tell you that. I sit down with management, with VPs, and we all say that it's so weird.
Mhm.
Sometimes we'll say, oh, this is going to hit your credit, you're going to drop 40 points, and then the person only dropped 15. We're
Mm.
like, how is that possible? So it kind of goes back to our previous video, and you guys can go back and watch that, when we were talking about that it it depends on how long you've had your credit,
Mhm.
you know um when was it established, what type of trade lines you have. So we have gotten to the point to where we do understand that it's about your profile. Your
Mhm.
profile determines what points you get.
Mm.
So someone that's just fresh out of high school, if they have a late pay, they can see their credit drop 30 points just for a late pay, one late pay. With someone more like me or you, we have a late pay and we're like, oh my gosh, it dropped 12 points.
Mhm.
Nothing compared to the person that dropped 30, because we're more established.
Mhm.
Homeowners purchase multiple cars, different things like it's paid off your student loans,
Right.
so it's kind of that your credit is your credibility.
Mhm.
So based off of your credibility, depends on what kind of money you get. It also depends on what type of interest rate you're going to get. And also, it also controls the offers that you get. Who's going to reach out to you and
Mhm.
make you offers? Like the big banks like Chase and everything, they're not reaching out. This Chase is not at the college campuses. You know what I'm saying? They don't want them. So your credibility, is definitely your credit. So when you think credit, think credibility, because your profile is your profile. You're not going to get what the next person get. So with settlement in full, it's the first question that I get. I may answer a settlement in full question every single day,
Wow.
probably 2 to 3 times a day, because that's what people want to know. What about if I settle it, or can you offer a settlement? How is this going to affect me? So unfortunately, it's going to affect you. I can't tell you how it's going to affect you personally, but settlement in full definitely affects you in a negative way. And it just depends on what you're trying to do. So if you're already established and you're trying to keep good credit, settlement in full is not for you. If you're a person that's on a rebuilding path,
Mhm.
then settlement in full is for you.
Mhm. So if we're thinking about, I'm going to do a settlement, and I heard you say that, let's say I didn't pay my account and my credit dropped 30 points. When I do a
Mhm.
settlement, I'm not going to get 30 points. I might get 12, I might get 10, I might get 15. So I'm still a little off balance from the original 30 that I originally lost when I did that.
Correct.
In your opinion, and remember, these are opinions. You should always, always seek a professional if you want more advice. These are just thinking about our experiences and what we think would happen, but none of this is a guarantee. Now, if I lost the 30 points and I'm thinking about settling, but I'm never going to get the 30 back, would it be a better idea to at least get the 15 points versus losing the full 30 though?
Good question. So it depends on where you are. We can give two different scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
We can give a scenario with somebody that's already established and they're moving up, or someone that's trying to reestablish.
Okay.
So for the person that's already established, Once you drop those points, you're not going to drop any more points
Mm,
unless something else happened, like maybe you hit 60 days,
mhm.
or then you drop more points, or if you, well, 61, because it's actually the 1 plus 1.
Yeah.
So it's the month plus 1. So if you hit 61, of course. But if you keep it right at 31 and never hit 61, nothing's going to ever change, right?
Okay.
So if you're in that situation, then I would say hold out and pay in full.
Okay.
If you're on a rebuilding track, your credit probably has already dropped down to 500s, 400s.
Hmm.
Settlement in full is going to only help you,
Okay.
you know, because even if you pay it in full, like you said, you're still not going to get the 30 points.
Hmm.
But you have other, usually, if you're in that situation, you have other things that you need to take care of also.
Hmm.
And you're trying to get the most done with the amount of money that you have. So
Okay.
I would say definitely go in and get the 15 points.
Okay. Now here's another question, because on our last video we talked about, 7 years, 10 years, depending on what it is, it'll fall off your credit. Let's say I'm at year 6 and a creditor reach out to me to settle something that I only got a year left of it being on there. What would you recommend in that scenario? Would you recommend, well, just wait the extra year, it's going to fall off anyways, or make the payment and now it sits on your credit?
Okay. So in that situation, if the creditor is divulging information, you, one, if it's to the point where, okay, if they're at that 6 year point, what do they want to do? Do they
Mm,
want to settle, or are they looking at pursuing you legally? If they're looking at
okay.
pursuing you legally, then you want to settle it out.
Okay.
Bottom line, if you know that within that year you're going to try to buy a house or you're going to try to get a car, you may want to settle it out.
Okay.
Um, Unfortunately, once you settle it out, it resets your clock again for 7 years. So
Mm,
yes, someone's still going to be able to see. Well, really, like 7.5. Um, Someone is going to be able to see that you defaulted. If it says 6 years, we know that you were charged off, and that you settled it out.
okay.
So, a lot of things go into play, when we're looking at that. Additionally, too, if it's just, if hey, I'm not making any moves, or maybe I had an account where I had paid everything else,
Hmm.
but I knew that I wasn't going to do nothing in the next year or two.
Okay.
And it was a dispute, and it was something that, hey, I return your equipment. I don't care if you say you got it 30 days. I know when I sent it.
Mhm.
I have the UPS going back and forth with them. It would come off, it would go back on, it would come off, it would go back on. And then finally I just stopped disputing with them. I said, you know what? I said, I'm gonna wait until it's 7.5 years. I contact the credit bureaus. I say, hey, it's been 7.5 years, and I had them take it off.
Okay.
But that's because I knew that, hey, I'm set. I'm not worrying about anything. I don't need to make any moves. I'm just going to let this drop off.
Okay. And I've heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, that I could settle something, and within my settlement or negotiation conversations with the creditor, I can say, I will pay this amount, but I want it to show as paid in full on my report. Is that something that a creditor can do?
Not legally.
Oh.
So per the FTC, per the FTC, we supposed to report fairly.
Okay.
So I, using you and you said, hey, I want to just report it in full. I'm going to settle it. The creditor say, okay, we'll do that. They have to
Mhm.
give me the same option if they give it to you,
Oh.
because that's fair credit reporting. I have heard of that,
Mhm.
but they would definitely be in trouble with the CFPB board. They would be in trouble with the
Wow.
FTC. I mean, a lot of different things. I have people call all the time and say, oh, well, you're my credit union. You should do that for me. No, we
Mm,
have to report everyone equally. Sometimes we have people call in and say, hey, I know I was late for 24 months, but I'm trying to buy a house now. Can you help me out? No, I can't. You were literally late. So no, I can't. Unless I'm going to offer that, I'm going to call you up
right,
and, Ebony, we just gave John 24 months. We're going to go ahead and give you 6. If you're
right.
not going to do that, you can always get in trouble as a financial institution. So most time when you get something like that, it's usually a collection agency
Yes.
that will let you do something to that nature. However, if they do it, great for you,
Mm.
but legally they shouldn't be doing it.
Oh, wow. That's definitely news to me because those are the things that I was hearing from people. And I used to wonder, like, how is that possible? I didn't pay it in full. But then what I've also heard is they will have these conversations, the person will agree to it, and then they look at their credit, and the credit says settled. It doesn't even say paid in full. And now it's this
Correct.
circular conversation of, but you told me that you were going to do this. And now with me hearing you say, well, this is illegal, they could essentially say, I never said that, or that's illegal.
Correct.
And they
Correct.
have now gotten somebody to pay something that they otherwise wouldn't have paid had they known that it was going to show up as a settlement versus paid in full. So, what
Yes.
happens in those
So
scenarios with the credit? I guess, what did you say? If it's a credit,
collection
a
agency.
collection agency. So, if the collection
Mhm.
agency is essentially lying to get them to pay. Is that a problem?
Oh, definitely. That's a violation of the FDCPA. You can't get someone to pay a dollar amount and deceive them.
Okay.
So if they say that they were going to do it, they have to do it. All calls are recorded. Of course, you're probably going to have to get an attorney, or there are some attorneys that do credit law that go
Mhm.
after agencies and different things like that. But I mean, the amount of money that you get from something like that is not really feasible for the amount of time, the
Right.
fighting and the putting
Mhm.
off on it. However, to avoid all that, you always get it in writing.
Yes.
Always get it in writing. And they're going to call you and they're going to try to pressure you into making that payment right then and there. If
Mhm.
they do that, something is wrong. Because
Okay.
if it's credible, and they're always going to give you 30 days. But
Okay.
if they're saying, hey, you need to pay it right now, oh, that's somebody that's trying to meet their quota. And they're going to say whatever they want to say or whatever they can to get you in there. And yes, definitely, they're going to come back and say that, hey, I didn't say that. Prove it.
Exactly.
Oh, I listened to the call. It didn't say that. And then all of a sudden that call get deleted,
Get recorded
or
over.
something to that nature. Yeah, the recording just, because we have the ability, unfortunately, to delete recordings,
Wow.
so if we want to, I do monitoring, phone monitoring. So, just different things to that nature. You know, not a real place won't ever go in and delete it, but collection agencies, they do have some foul practices. That's why all these laws came into place. It was basically because of collection agencies.
Wow. So if I'm thinking about, I'm going to pay something in full, let's say I feel, I know I owe the debt, I have the money to pay it. Let me just go ahead and pay this in full so it comes off of, my credit report. Where, or not where, but in what instances would you recommend that someone consider paying in full versus doing that settlement?
I always say pay in full.
Okay.
However, if you can't afford it, or if they're threatening legal action, always settle,
Okay.
because you don't want to get yourself further into debt
Mm-hmm.
and further, credit default, because, you're trying to toggle between paid in full and settle in full.
Mm-hmm.
If they're offering a settlement and that's all you have, go for it.
Yeah.
This is my advice that I give to my members. Either one, do it.
Mhm.
Because, and the reason why I say that is that paid in full, settled in full does not come into play for a credit approval unless it has to be looked at manually.
Oh.
So if you go in and big banks, Chase, Bank of America, US Bank, the big ones, right?
Mhm.
Their approval process is automated.
Mm.
So what happens is that in the programming, when you go online and you request a loan, the programming is saying, if this person has this, and this, approve it. If
Mhm.
they don't, deny it.
Mm.
However, some banking, depending on what type of loan you have, like if you go through some, you answer all the questions, and then sometimes they say, we got to get a little bit more information,
Yes, 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 yes.
right?
I've heard of
So
that.
now the programming is saying, well, it said this, and that, and this is the only thing that it didn't say. If it does that, then do this. And
Mhm.
it comes back and asks you for more information. So
Gotcha.
long as you in the automated process, then chances are your credit report won't ever be looked at by a person.
Wow.
Even
Now
the
that
even
is
the
the gem. Listen,
even the underwriting is automated
that
now.
right, but I'm just saying, like, I need us to like really hone in on what you just said because that is important, right? Because
Right.
now, like when you said it, and I just started thinking about when I'm applying for a credit card, I'm self-reporting because they ask
Mm-hmm.
me my salary, they'll ask me, my social and things like that, and then it pops up. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like with people that do the whole shopping cart rule of trying to get the credit cards when they're on those sites and you get
Mm-hmm.
approved because you got items in your cart and they're like, oh, you're pre-approved for $500. But there's no way that an individual is sitting somewhere if I'm, ordering stuff at 2 o'clock in the morning
You
to look
know
at the
why?
credit report.
Because that programming is doing a soft pull on you.
Right. No,
So
I'm
when
that's what
you
I'm
put
saying.
in, yeah, when
Yeah.
you put in just your name, it does your name and your zip code is all that programming needs.
Uh-huh.
And it can look at your credit report and say, okay, she's a shoe in. Let's
Yeah.
go ahead and offer her that credit. It
Yeah.
is all automated. It's telling, hey, if she says this, do this. If does that. So while you're thinking you're just putting in information, so you can get your package shipped to you,
Yeah.
it's looking into you, it's reading you and saying, oh wait, she good. She, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't tell them exactly what your credit score is, but it gives them a roundabout of your vantage, and your
Yeah.
vantage is also basically saying that, hey, it's this, I think it goes up to what, 500, 550 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's something that most of the stores use to
Gotcha.
look at you.
Uh-huh.
So, if you had two or three of those cars and you pay good or paid off,
Uh-huh.
yeah, all the stores. And then, a lot of these little stores use the same bank.
Mm.
You may go to
Yeah.
Gap, you may go to New York and Company, and it's the same bank.
Mm-hmm.
So they already know, your status with them.
Yeah. So, and I think that goes back to how you started the conversation with it depends on what you're trying to do.
Hmm.
Because if I'm trying to get a mortgage, they're looking at that report, with a fine
Yeah,
tooth comb.
the
But
pre-approval, they won't look at it.
no, I'm
You
saying
know,
once you get into the
right.
process. So if you're trying to buy a house, it's
Hmm.
going to be better if you have these paid in fulls versus a settlement. However, if I'm trying to buy a vehicle, be something that gets approved so easily, it's going to be a different mindset of what exactly am I trying to do. And then
Hmm.
furthermore, again, thinking about when is something going to fall off, if I'm going to get sued. And then I want to go back to when you were saying, as far as you're going to end up owing more money. So when we're thinking about if they're going to sue you, be mindful of you're going to pay those attorney's fees and
Court
attorney
fees.
fees in those cases, the attorneys are going to have so much work that they've done to send you one letter, and I'm a lawyer, to send you one letter saying, hey, you need to pay us, and then you don't respond. Okay, let's sue them, get them on the docket. I got to show up in court. The costs are inflated because it is what it is, because there's so many people that either don't show up to court. So then you have these default judgments. And be mindful, if you have a job, you got a bank account, they're going to find
They're garnishing you.
and they're going to garnish you, right? They're going to take whatever they need to do to find you. And had you called them and got a settlement, and let's say you don't want to do a settlement and you want to do paid in full, you can set up payment plans that works best for you. Whereas if you owe $500 and you want to pay it off in 2 years because that's all you can afford, again, as we said in our first video, they want your money. Okay. It is better for them to get something from you versus having a charge off where they get absolutely nothing. And I used to work as a portfolio manager. And I always tell people, if the consumer owes us money and our delinquency rate is 15% versus the industry standard, which I don't know, maybe it's 8% now. I'm not sure because I'm not in that industry anymore. It's going to hurt us to have a high delinquency rate when we go out and try to get money, when we go out and try to get investors. So it is critical that we collect something versus nothing, because there's times where I know people are wondering, it's $200. Why are they doing all of this for $200? Because they might be trying to get $1 million investor and they want to see the books. And the books is like, you all don't know how to lend money because people keep not paying you. So therefore, we're not going to entrust our money. So again, the ball is actually in your court and you have the upper hand when it comes to these settlements, when it comes to payment plans. If you say I only can afford $20 a month, they're probably going to say, hey, can you do 30? If you say I can't do 30, they're going to take that 20 and then probably 6 months later, they'll revisit it and say, hey, can you do 30 now? Can you do 35? But they're going to work with you because it is in their best interest. So always think about that. They need your money in order for their businesses to continue going and in order for them to keep getting funders. So they're going to bend over backwards in an effort to collect something because that's going to decrease their delinquency rate.
Correct. And in the best time to set up those payment arrangements and do that is before it's went too far.
Yes.
Talk to your creditor as this is happening. Let them know, hey, I lost my job. The worst thing that you can do is to ignore the phone calls and all that stuff. That's because at that point, I can tell you today, I approved 4 repos just because they just never called. It's just like, and I really didn't want to. It was Christmas time, it's COVID, but just no communication at all. I mean, I've even sent an agent to their home, knocked on the door. Wow. One person, he was like, oh, I'm going to call him. I waited 2 weeks. I'm like, well, maybe he's busy, kind of thing. Like, because we don't want the car back. We don't
exactly. We can't do nothing with it.
we don't want car locks,
Yeah.
We just loan you the money for it. And I just to the point to where I just didn't have any other choice. It left me no other choice because there was literally no communication. So, and that's just an example with everything. Communication is key, and more than anything, don't keep letting them tally your bill. I do the invoices now. Approve the invoices from the different attorneys. I see, a demand letter. It's ridiculous. I'm like $250, and it's a template. What I'm saying? They just copy and paste that person's name and they're sending it out, charge me $250, and sometimes even for the certified letter.
Yes. So, they are going to get paid, trust and believe. And that's what I'm saying. It's one of those industries where it's always going to be people that's not paying their bills. So the lawyer, they're thinking, I just sit at a desk and I put in names and addresses and mail off letters. And if I can do 50 letters a week, you're making a killing. Yeah. But again, just remember, they would rather have something than nothing. They would rather not have to pay this attorney. But they're doing what is in the best interest of their company, right? It's not even about the $250, because if 5,000 people owe them $250, their portfolio is going to look like trash, and it's going to be very difficult for them
Well,
to get more funding.
Another thing too is I want to add to it is that sometimes, it's also how you approach it. And just know with a lot of this, it makes a difference whether your loan is first party or third party.
Yes.
So when I say first party or third party is if it's with the original creditor.
Yes.
If it's with the original creditor, they are not as lenient as a third party, because a third party purchased it for pennies on the dollar. Mm-hmm. So, you got to go in there and you have to think about that. But when it's more of a creditor, it depends on what type of loan it is. Mm-hmm. It depends on if you have assets. You guys have to know that if you have assets, they hold the gun. Mm-hmm. And the bottom line is that they see where because you remember when you answer these application questions, they're asking you, do you rent or you own? Yeah. Do you, they're asking how much is in your savings account? How much is in your checking account currently? Right. Are there any 401ks, retirement plans? They're asking these questions, and we use that information to come back to say, oh, they live in their own home. Let's look at what, the home. Let's look at the value, and different things like that. And so, like Emily said, when it's $200 and $300, and I'm going to give you guys an egg right now. 2,500 and below, we don't give that no attention. We're just like, hey, just charge it off. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. They'll pay it when they want something. Or maybe they won't ever pay it. They might let it drop off. Where mm-hmm. it's probably automatically gonna sweep to a collection agency. Mm-hmm. We're like, let them handle that, let them deal with that, type of thing. But and then kind of 2,500 to 25 plus to 1,000. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, 25,000 to 2,500 to 5,000. We give it a little bit more attention. Right. We might have somebody come knock on your door or, something like that. However, if I have someone to knock on your door and it's identified that you live there, mm-hmm. and you got that, because that person's going to hand you a letter from me to tell you that you need to call me immediately. Mm-hmm. You need to call me immediately. Yeah. Because even no matter what happens, that's going to always be a document that we have on file. Mm-hmm. That we know that we made contact with you. So no matter what, when you call back, some people come back to me, oh, well, I didn't know that this was behind. No. Let me pull this document. I had an agent to come out to you on December 20th at 5:54 p.m. That agent is going to take a picture of your home, the cars that's in the driveway, mm-hmm. And that person, it doesn't matter what's going on. When you call me back to try to settle, nope, payment in full. Payment in full.
And that's what I always tell people. It's all about communication. And then I want to go back to, you miss a payment and depending on the points and how that's gonna happen. Now, I had a situation probably, I want to say like last year, and I pay my credit card on time all the time. Somehow I missed the payment, and probably 5 days later, I got an email saying, hey, we don't know what's going on. Let us know. Your payment was due on this date. I called them immediately. And I'm talking to the representative. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what happened. I always pay on time. You can look at my record. I've never been late. Is there any way that, you can waive the fees and not report or any of these things? Mm-hmm. And he said, oh no, I'm already taking care of that right now. I see that you've been with us for this many years and your mm-hmm. payments are always on time. And we completely understand that this happens. So I say that to say, number one, if you have a good credit, what do you call it? A credit what?
History.
Credit. Not, you didn't say credit history earlier. Profile. if
Credit
you got a
profile,
good
yeah.
credit profile, but also just having that communication, because I feel like even if I probably missed one or two payments before, because I immediately made contact and immediately explained what was going on, and I was nice to the representative, they were more inclined to help me. Because again,
Exactly.
even if I missed one payment before, my payment record is a benefit for their portfolio. And because I understand that now, because I didn't understand it at all. I would have a credit card, but I'm not charging anything on it. And then one time I had a credit card, they closed my account. And I was like, well, why you close my account? I didn't need to buy anything. But now working in the industry, it wasn't a benefit for them for me to just have this card and I'm not doing anything with it. So it's not a positive or negative for their larger portfolio. So they close the account out. But with this particular credit card, I know for a fact that if they have somebody that's not paying and then they got somebody that's paying, they need me in their portfolio. So it was in his best interest to waive that because I had such a good payment history. So communication is key. And then obviously, paying on time if you can. And then if you can't, being mindful of your spending as well.
I'll give you an example of communication and what's key. So I had a member pay his car late every single month on day 18. There's a grace period.
Yeah.
Talk to him, but every month he called in and he was like, hey, this is just when I get paid. We changed his due date, but it's still just the way that he got paid. And he just never made enough money to be able to pay, a month ahead of time. So come to the end, maturity date hit. He has this large payment left because it's late fees, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't require him to pay the late fees up. And I want to say, I don't want to embellish it. I think it was like $1,800.
Yeah.
Right. And he was a slow payer, never went over 30. He literally paid it on the 18th day every month.
Wow.
And he called up and he said, hey, I've been talking to you guys every single month. He said, for, however long, his 48 months or whatever, however long it was. He said, you guys know what was going to me. I paid you every single month. I know I owe these late fees, but by the way that I paid, I cannot pay y'all these late fees.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I say, well, I can't go in and just delete all these late fees. Like you said, you owe them. What can you do? He said, I can give you $263 today.
$263.
That's what he had. He said, this is what I have, and he was like, he said, that's the best I can do. Now if you guys don't want to release my lien or whatever the case may be, it is what it is. He said, but I'm not going to keep paying on this car, type of thing. And he was nice. He wasn't, and I understood exactly what he said. I looked at it, I sent my manager a message. I say, hey, because it was over, I think I could only delete 1,500. My authority was 1,500. And I said, explain the situation. He gave me the override. He was like, do it. He was like, this guy has been communicating with us. He's made his payment. We never had to call him for it. He always called us. Even if I would have seen it, even if I would have seen it at day 15, I knew that he was paying it on day 18 because that was his credibility.
Yeah.
He's gonna pay it late, and he said, I'm gonna pay it on the 18th day. And that's what he did every single month. Every single month. I mean, he might vary the time of day he's gonna call,
right?
He called that day
to let you know.
And so different things like that. It does matter. It does matter. So, like you said, that communication is key through it all.
Definitely. So I think we've discussed paid in full versus settlements.
Yes. Just to recap, paid in full versus settlement. It depends from lender to lender. It just depends on who the lender is. And additionally, it doesn't come into play until you have to have a hard credit report pull.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you may go in and say you go to Sam's and you're like, oh, when I walk in Sam's, it always does this because I go on my mobile app because I don't want to stand in line. So I go in and start scanning my stuff. When I go to pay for it, so I can just walk out, don't have to stand in line, it tells me, oh, it looks like you can be pre-approved for a Sam's card, type of
Yes.
thing. So one year I was like, oh, let me go ahead and get the Sam's card. It probably was Christmas. Let me
Mm-hmm.
get it because they're giving you like so much money off, right? And
Yes.
then it tells me, it says, oh, it depend. I think it was where I was in the store
Mm-hmm.
where I didn't get a signal and it kind of went out and I hit submit and nothing happened. So I
Mm.
went to another part of the store and hit submit. And then at that point, they were like, oh, we need to review your credit report. So I
Oh.
guess the first one did go through.
Uh-huh.
So Sam sent me two letters. By this time, I'm like, you know what? They hit my credit. I didn't get the score. This is some BS, right? They
Right.
hit my points, made my score drop because I had a hard inquiry. I'm pissed at this point.
Exactly. Especially for
So
Sam's.
exactly. So and like they have been sending me offers all year long. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is something, really? So I get home, I see the Sam's letter, and I'm just like, whatever, just throw it on the table. And then about 2 weeks later, I get another Sam's letter. I was
Oh.
like, oh no, they need to stop, throw it on the table. And so the first one, I finally read it. I was, time to shred. So I was like, let
Mm-hmm.
me see what they said, type of thing. And they're like, hey, it looked like that you were pre-approved. Contact us, so we can get your
What?
card information to us or whatever the case may be. I was like, and it gave me a date to contact them by.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it was past that date. It
Right.
was like 30 days. I was like, oh man. So I shredded. And then the next one was like, yeah, we did pull your credit, to see, and of course, again, they were like, give us a call, but I ignored the mail. So I didn't care because I was like, I don't need another credit card.
Yeah.
But because I caused that double submission, they
Mm.
did have to look at a hard copy of my credit report just because of the glitch.
Yeah.
So, but Sam's wouldn't have cared if I had a settle in full.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, if Chase Bank was, I think Sam's is what's the name of that one bank? They do all the Synchrony Bank.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
they do
value
like
city
I
in
think
all
I do
different
like the
places.
Home
Yeah.
Depots, all those little,
Mm-hmm.
Lowe's and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So but however, if it would have been Chase Bank, they would have said, "Oh, we can't approve you because you got a settlement in full."
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
they hold you to a high. So it depends on what you're trying to do. A mortgage company, they're going to ask you, why settlement versus payment in full. So
Mm-hmm.
just keep in mind that settlement in full and payment in full will not come into play unless someone has to manually look at your credit report.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best thing that I can give you. And it depends on the lender.
Yeah.
Certain lenders are okay with it, and then certain lenders are not.
Or not.
So, but and also keep in mind that, you know, settlement in full, you're not going to get maximize your points.
Mm-hmm.
And, for the most people, that's what's most important. But settlement in full can't stop you from getting sued. So it's kind of like, hey, I'll take these 15 points and no lawsuit. you
Exactly. Yeah.
know?
I mean, that's definitely going to be important because you got to think about how much you're going to have to pay. So what
hmm
we're going to do is this recording, we are actually going to load it into the group once it does what it does in order to allow me to upload it. It'll also be uploaded on YouTube as well for individuals to watch a replay. We're going to do another session next Monday, and that one is going to talk about bankruptcy, when to file, and the effects on your credit if you decide to do that, because there are instances where your only alternative is going to be bankruptcy. And then after that, we're going to have a session on just how do you get more points on your credit? How do I figure out the system to increase my credit score? And some of you all might be thinking, well, we keep talking about personal credit, like when are we going to get into business credit? But be mindful that when you're a new business, your personal credit is weighted. It weighs a lot in your business. And I know there's all these conversations about building business credit, and I bought a car, under my business name. But if your personal credit is not together, starting out is going to be very difficult to get a lot of those things under
Mhm.
your business name. And then once your business credit is built, you won't even have to worry about your personal credit coinciding with your business
Correct.
credit. So we want to start with step one, which is personal, and then we're going to talk about business credit later on down the line. So with that, again, I want to thank you for giving us your time and the information and the resources. And I know there is somebody that is going to watch this and have an aha moment, or I didn't even know that moment, because I've had several just throughout our conversation. And then for everyone else, we will see you all next Monday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.